So yesterday was Christmas, and not only is that a time to open presents, but it's also a time to watch Wonder Woman 1984. User reviews on IMDb, nothing was higher than a 5. People were slamming this movie and absolutely hated it. And I was like, what? Like, this is the Wonder Woman sequel. How can it be so horrible? Today I'm gonna be talking about why this movie isn't as bad as people are claiming. First part of this video will be just a general review, but I will be going into spoilers in the second half, so I'll put warnings. So, Wonder Woman 1984 is very different from the original. The original, you have this origin story of kind of this new superhero figuring out her powers, figuring out what she stands for. This movie is very different. The director herself, Patty Jenkins, said that she wanted this movie to stand alone, be very separate from the original. She also said she was inspired by the original Wonder Woman series in the 70s and wanted to pay homage to TV origins of this superhero. I actually liked this movie. There were definitely things that I was like, okay here, like the pacing isn't the best, and this movie is 2.5 hours long. That's gonna be the first thing that people are gonna criticize, is the amount of time it takes to consume this movie. There is a plot device of wish granting in this movie. I didn't really love how they handled it because I felt it was a little too like, oh here, let's just solve all our problems. The CGI wasn't up to par, and I was kind of disappointed with that because for a big blockbuster movie, the VFX, especially the motion of the people, didn't quite look right. Like even in the opening scene, and they have an actual VFX shot of a human doing a very kind of grandiose action, the physics did not match up properly. As negative as I'm being with all of my little nitpicking, I have very high hopes for movies, so I'm probably gonna find every little thing wrong that I can with it. However, there were some positive things about this movie, and I think that the ending, it was a little cliche at points, but it reminded me of the first movie. The ending and how they kind of solved the problem, how things came together. I was like, this is a Wonder Woman movie. So now let's go ahead and go into the spoilers where I can really start to rate this movie. All right, let me get some water because my throat's getting scratchy. So throughout this movie, one of the main questions that I kept asking myself was, who is the actual villain here? Because throughout the whole time, we kept switching our focus between Maxwell and Barbara. Barbara is presented as the villain in marketing because she's listed as Cheetah, but then Maxwell's here too, and it was a really confusing story. And I've known that in other superhero movies where they try to do two villains, it gets confusing. But this movie was trying to bounce around between the two, that we spent more time on Maxwell than we did on Barbara. So Barbara's left is just kind of this caricature of this slighted woman who at the second she receives power, she goes crazy. Another question I had was, who is controlling the Dreamstone? For the first portion of the movie, it's just, oh, here's this stone that grants wishes. Well, it's like, why? What? For what happens? And we later find out that it's created by the god of lies, also known as the Duke of Deception. But they don't really go into that. So, and I felt that the Dreamstone was a little bit weak in its application, because it's like, okay, yeah, your wishes get granted. But it's just that seems kind of like a writing cop-out, almost. I even thought that the bringing Steve back, as this was Diana's wish, wasn't really needed in the plot, because he was there for a little bit, but then she just gave him up. I feel like they used the reintroduction of Chris Pine as trailer bait instead of an actual storyline, and because I was like, oh, there's gonna be a whole thing that like maybe he didn't die and there's a whole conspiracy behind that. It just doesn't, I just didn't like it. As I said before, I really think the ending was great. That was one of the things that I can, no hesitation saying that I really enjoyed the ending. That, of course, the way to solve the problem without killing Maxwell was for him to renounce his wish. But once he actually said, I renounce my wish, I was left like, whoa. Like literally in my notes, I'm like, I renounce my wish from the abuser. damn. Like, because I was just so like, oh my gosh, like this feels like a Wonder Woman movie. There's this chain event of when someone takes responsibility for their actions and starts to try and fix things, that layer by layer things go back to where they were and healing can commence and things can be okay. If you want to change the world, if you want to put healing in the world, start with yourself. Start with the mistakes that you have made. And once you start to work with that and make up for it, things are gonna get better. And that's an awesome message. Yes, the history shows that the stone has destroyed every civilization that it was in, but ultimately what destroyed those civilizations was the greed of humanity, and that the stone just gave people that power to be destructive. Ultimately, the things that we want, the things that we think that will make our lives better and easier, may actually be our downfall. And like, how introspective of a thing is that? And I'm reading very much into the story, but that's what stories are designed to be. It's just canvases for us to project our experiences on to get something more out of it. And then lastly, the big spoiler that everyone's talking about that Google almost spoiled for me. The first thing that popped up was, Linda Carter is Asteria. And I was like, Google, you're gonna spoil this for people. Stop. But anyways, the mid-credit scene, we have a dark-haired, blue-cloaked woman who we are expected to believe is Wonder Woman saving the day. But we find out that no, it's Linda Carter as Asteria, and my gosh, y'all should have seen my reaction. I know, I like literally started screaming. I was like, it's Linda Carter, oh my goodness. Like, I literally could not contain my excitement. Going back to the original origins, and she's Asteria, which Asteria is like one of my favorite goddesses because I've been studying mythology because she's the goddess of stars. So I was very happy about it, and so that might be one of the reasons why I think the movie was a little bit better than what it was, even though I've just spent the last however long kind of bashing all the little inconsistencies of this movie. Things that I liked about this movie, which I'm leaving to the end because I'm a negative Nelly. I really liked the fashion. It's kind of an arbitrary thing in the movie, but I really like Diana's fashion sense. I don't know what it is, but it might be the tailored loose pants that are like, look at me, I'm a professional. It's a little bit classic, a little bit modern. I'm like, cool. The black dress and the whole kind of 80s look with that was cool, but it's a cool outfit. And I'm gonna die again. Any movie is gonna have problems, but this one, there was just a little bit more that was like, there's a good movie in here. It was just held back by all that it was trying to do. And especially with how great the first movie was. The first movie was a gem in the midst of all the superhero movies. Like, honestly, anyone who does not like that movie, what are you talking about? Second one, that has major expectations to live up to, so of course it's not gonna be perfect. Camera died because of course it does. But yeah, ultimately, my conclusion of this movie is it was like a 6.5 out of 10, maybe. It wasn't horrible, but there are definitely things that it can improve on. If y'all have your own opinions on the movie, leave it in the comments down below. What were things that I missed that you either liked or massively disliked about the movie? Hopefully soon after this movie, I will be launching my review of Soul. My goodness, was that a beautiful movie? So yeah, stay tuned for the Soul review coming out soon. That's all I've got for now. So yeah, bye!